grave.
Yeah. All right, everybody, let's go. Back after Pesach, new book, new series, new lessons, same Torah.
Same Torah.
Same Torah. We don't change.
That Torah was written somewhere around, was it 30 CE?
I don't know what you're
The
saying.
Metzora text.
But what we're learning now is based on the Parsha, which was written by Moshe. 3,000.
In Deuteronomy.
Well, he wrote the Torah in stages. The 5 books of Moses were not written all at once. By the giving of the Torah at Sinai, he wrote from the beginning until after the Exodus.
Mm-hmm.
And then they hung around Har Sinai for a year, almost. And he wrote from Exodus, or from the giving of the Torah to the book of Numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, I don't know exactly when he wrote. When he wrote it.
Yeah, well, I'm not talking about originating the text. I'm talking about putting it down on the scrolls.
Yeah, I that's why I used the word right.
Right.
The one who originated it is the boss.
The boss.
Yeah.
Then why do they refer to the Metzora text?
Who is they?
I'm reading something that pointed out that we're talking about the formation of the letters and stuff like that.
Okay,
And
so
the ancient letters and the current letters and when they were
right.
When
So
they started
yeah,
using
so
them.
there's a whole discussion. This has nothing to do with tonight's class, but
No.
one day we got to put Larry on the camera so everybody should know who the disruptor is. But there's something called ancient Hebrew script,
Yes.
and then there's Assyrian script, which we have now. There's a whole discussion is, were the Torahs written in the letters we have now? We know the daily writing wasn't, or print, whatever you want to call it, wasn't what we have now. That for sure. The question is, was the Torah written in the letters we have now? It's a discussion. Some people say yeah, some people say no. I'm not an authority. My opinion means absolutely nothing. If at home my opinion means nothing, can you imagine? Yeah. Anyway,
Well,
let's go.
the important thing is that we are learning from it.
There you go. We're learning a lesson. All right. So today, in line with today's, here you go. There's a guy talking my language, my new favorite guy. One for each hand.
Well, where's the Captain Morgan spiced rum?
No, we're not rum. We do whiskey and bourbon.
We've got rum.
Yeah, whiskey and bourbon. One's for Monday, one's for Tuesday. I don't drink whiskey every day.
Where do
Sunday
you want the whitefish salad in the lot?
in the fridge. Yeah.
You don't
Sunday
have a drinking
whiskey.
problem.
No,
No. You drink and
all the people have the problems.
yeah.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk about love.
This was the lox you were talking about.
Yeah. Thank you very much. So he got the lox and the whitefish. You get the fresco.
But he's not eating it.
Yeah, well, he will. So today we're going to talk about love, very, very much in line with today's modus operandi. I would say, 'cause today everything's about love. There's no discipline. You can't tell anybody off. No one likes it. And well, that's not entirely true according to the Torah, because there is a place for rebuke in the Torah. When someone does something wrong,
You let them know about it in no uncertain terms.
right? This is like I remember my there was a Geico used to run an ad, like it's so obvious you could save 15% with Geico. So it says, could Geico save you 15%? Was honest, Abe Lincoln honest? Says, hey, does this dress make me look fat? Yes. Right? When someone does something wrong, you gotta tell them. Honest Abe, right? But there's obviously a method in how you do it. And Jerry Seinfeld famously has the joke, making fun of the guys who see a pretty woman and honk the car horn. Mm-hmm. So what do they expect to happen? The girl to kick off her heels, running after the car, grab onto the bumpers. I never knew how you felt, right? So there's a way to communicate feelings, and there's a way to communicate rebuke and different things. And it can't just be all love. We're now in a time of Sphira, and the first week is Chesed, loving kindness. And the second week is Gevura. We just last night we finished a week of Gevura, and tonight we're starting the week of Tiferes. What's Tiferes? Tiferes people translate it as beauty, but how does that have a character trait? In character trait, you would translate it as balance or compassion. Compassion is not loving kindness, you're just giving. It's not discipline, you're just holding back. It's balance. You give more maybe than the guy deserves, but you don't overdo it. And that's beauty. What's beauty? Like something of one color can be beautiful.
Of course it can.
It cannot. Beauty is a balance, a mixture of colors and textures all together.
You're telling me you can't look up at the sky and say that's beautiful?
But that's not one color. It's not.
And beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Oh, yes.
Well,
When I say
To
beautiful,
you, may not be beautiful to the next guy.
well, I think there's generally a consensus on what's beautiful. The reason why I was hanging in the museum, it reminded me of the joke of the Jewish guy, the immigrant, who came into money and told someone, someone told him that when you're rich, you buy art. But the guy didn't know the first thing about art. He says, what kind of art? He says, new thing called modern art. The guy didn't understand. Walked in, he said, give me a piece of art. He says, you see this? This is a big piece. It has a line, a circle, a triangle, a shape. So what does it mean? It's all in the high, you know what I'm saying? Hey, he buys it. Next, Baruch Hashem, he had a good year. He comes in, I need a better thing. Instead of a line, it's just a line in a circle. He said, what does it mean? It means the guy gives the whole, Baba Maisa. Next year he comes in, I want the most expensive. So it's just a big white screen, a big white canvas, and a dot. He said, it's too busy. Right? Let's go. So we started off getting off topic. So if you just started, you can skip the first 10 minutes of the recording and go straight. So last week we learned about the kosher animals and purity and impurity of animals. So this week we're learning about the purity and impurity of people, but not purity and impurity of people vis-a-vis as it relates to touching a dead body, because that we're going to learn next week. The Kohanim, they touch a dead body, you become impure. We're not talking about that. We're talking about if someone contracts a disease, a spiritual disease that presented itself in discoloration either on the skin, tzaras. Many times it's translated as leprosy. It's a false translation. Like this, the fruit of the forbidden fruit is an apple. I don't know where they got that from.
Probably a fig, because there must have been figs there, because Adam found fig leaves.
So some people say it is a fig, some people say it's wheat, some people say grape. There's not one Jewish source it's an apple, but everyone thinks it's an apple because that's what everyone says. That's what everyone says, right? Everyone says it. It's got to be true.
It's metaphorical, no matter how you look at it.
No, it's not really. No, that's not actually. Don't say it. It's some people say it's literal. Be very wary of saying things in the Torah are only metaphorical. Anyway, but we're not gonna go off topic more, Larry. I'll tell you what, Larry. We're gonna
You're the student that teachers don't like.
We're gonna bookend the class with in the beginning off topic, at the end off topic, but in the middle we're gonna do topic.
Okay.
So
topical.
So it's not leprosy. So we're not going to use the word leprosy. Mm-hmm. We're going to use the word tzaras. Now, tzaras could present itself in a few ways: on the skin, on the clothing, on the hair, or what are you looking at me laughing about?
It could be psoriasis. It sounds almost the same.
It could be, but it's not.
Okay.
Psoriasis is not a discoloration of the skin. But it's not. It's dry skin. Tzaras is not dry skin. Tzaras was in the skin, it looked like dead skin. It was very white. You had healthy skin, then you had a patch of white skin, white like snow. White, and then two black hairs in the middle.
Okay.
So, or some different shades of white. And you also had white, whatever, you had reddish. You had skin, We're not going to get into all the details of tzaras. Skin, hair, clothing, and the house. And the rabbis teach us, like I started off saying, that it was a spiritual disease that represented it in a physical way. What does it mean, a spiritual disease? Because the person was spiritually rotten, and the person needed a good reckoning, because you have to understand, and this is what we're going to get into. If the person had tzaras on his house, he could lose his house. If he had it on his clothing, he could lose his clothing. And you might say, big deal, go to Walmart. There was no Walmart back then. No, there's a story in the Gemara. I mean, you have to understand why it's a big deal. There's a story in the Gemara of a rabbi who was very, very poor, and he was walking through a field that had thorns, and he picked up his pants, and the student saw how the thorns were scratching his legs. So he said, Rabbi, why don't you put down your pants to protect your legs? Because he said, I only have one pair of pants, and my skin will heal, but my pants rip. I'm done, right? I mean, so back then we also find different times in the Torah where, like, Yosef gave Binyamin and his brothers clothing. Clothing cost money. I mean, it was a massive. In the olden days, people would make a shechianu when they got new clothing, so that was a financial hit. Then on the hair, or on the skin. Now, if a person we'll talk about the clothing in the house for a second. If a person had tzaras on his skin or his hair, he was kicked out of civilization. Not that he couldn't come to shul. He couldn't live in the city. He had to live outside the city. And not only he couldn't live in the city, he couldn't even hang out with other people who are impure. Because there's a lot of people who are impure, right? So you have people who touch dead bodies, people who are what's called a zav. Actually, that is in this week's parsha. A zav. Zav is a person has an abnormal flow. We're not getting into it, the medical. There's a very, very severe impurity. But they couldn't even hang out with another Metzora, with another person, the same thing. So we're talking about a person who is a bad guy or a bad girl, and it's our job to tell them, you're wrong. Ha! I feel good about myself. I did my job, right? I told them they're bad. I feel good. And I remember a story. I told the story before, where I was driving my kids to camp. I had to meet at the Publix, like Taft and and Hiatus or Taft or Palm, all the way down there. Another parent. And I walked into Publix, and I'm walking to my car. All of a sudden, I hear click, 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 click. Turn around and see this lady's running over to me. What do I do? And all of a sudden, she runs and she shoves a magazine into my hand, and a big smile breaks across her face. I'm like, why is she so happy? I open it up. It's something about that guy.
Yeah.
Right. So I threw it in the garbage. But for her, she did her job, right? So you go to somebody and say, "You're bad." Oh, I feel good about myself. That's not what the Torah is talking about, of how to reprimand somebody. Or you could say, "No, I'm going to take it seriously." Ira, you got a problem. No, sit for. I'm going to be a while. And you start ripping into the guy, and you say, you're this and you're that, you're lazy and a bum. Right, and exactly, adjectives, right, and all those things.
And you dress funny.
And then wouldn't you know it, the guy doesn't listen to you. So what happened? I was telling him all these things to improve. So obviously there's an art to you can't condone it and not say anything, right? On the other hand, you have to say it in a way that the person will want to improve. Because the mitzvah isn't that you should just feel good about yourself and rebuke the guy, because that's in next week's parsha. In next week's parsha, in Parshat Kadeshim, there's a mitzvah to rebuke your fellow. But the mitzvah isn't to rebuke him so you should feel good about yourself and rebuke him. It says, but the mitzvah is he rebuke him in order that he does teshuvah. He repents in his ways. So here we're talking about a guy. It says there's 7 sins why a person would get tzaras. So gossip, murder, stealing, acting immoral, No.
Usury.
No. I don't remember. I don't remember what there are things. Or there was something like that. Maybe 5, 6, 7 things why a person would get. The most common one is gossip. But you were talking about a person who had a real rotten inside. So let's go. So the question is that we're dealing with is what do you do? What's the most effective way to talk to somebody, point out their faults, without offending them? Well, the answer is you say no offense.
Wait, something in C is very.
C, where are you?
1C?
No, first we're doing we're on page 3. Where are you?
Oh.
I'm not up there.
I thought you were,
No. Oh, you see. See, let me practice rebuking you.
You're on page 3?
Yeah, page 3. Page 3. Yeah, see, page 3. The question for discussion
You're a
is.
page ahead of him.
Yeah, the question for discussion is, what's the most effective way of pointing out someone's faults without offending them? So the answer is, you say no offense. No offense is like once you say no offense, you can't get offended. That's it. No offense. You're ugly.
Don't take this the wrong way.
Yeah, you're ugly, you're fat, you're stupid, you're immoral, all these things, but there's no offense. And I mean it from the bottom of my heart. Right?
okay.
All right.
You
Right?
smell funny.
Right.
No
So-
offense.
Exactly. So, and
You smell offensive.
And obviously, I mean, this is a question for parents because parents want their kid to be better. What's the one thing parents always are afraid of? If I push my kid too hard, they're gonna walk away, right? You don't want to alienate your kid, but you don't want your kid to be a brat. So you gotta push him or her. On the other hand, they have to know it's coming from a place of love. Okay, so we spoke about we're gonna skip. Leprosy, idiots. So we're going to skip to text 1b. And 1b it says that only a Kohen could declare a person impure because he's tzaras. That means you can be the biggest, wisest, greatest man, Rabbi Akiva, or whatever it is, but you're not a Kohen. You can think the guy is impure, but you cannot declare the guy impure. Now the Gemara or the Mishnah comes up and says one. Let's say the priest isn't 1B and 1C. Let's say the priest isn't an expert. The Kohen is not an expert. Now, obviously, we should have a Talmud Chacham, a Kohen who's a scholar and knows. But let's say you don't have. Not every scholar is a priest. Not every priest is a scholar, right? So the scholar tells the Kohen, say he's Tameh or say he's Tahar. And you see, he even goes so far. 1C. What if the only Kohen around is under Bar Mitzvah? Or doesn't know any better?
Well, what if he's blind, as it says here?
What if he's blind?
He can't see it.
Right?
So how does he determine it?
But even if he, no, you don't want to touch him.
No, because that makes you impure.
If
Yeah.
he's
If it is Saras.
right.
Well, that's how you tell if you're blind.
So, but it's not a question if it's not a question if it's not even a question of if you can see or not. Even if you can see, but if he doesn't know the difference, then seeing doesn't help. The expert tells him. And Rashi says, you see in text number 2, that's what the Torah says. The Torah says that only a Kohen can declare a person pure and impure. An obvious question is, what kind of shenanigans is this? What do you mean? If you're a Jew, I only go to a Jewish doctor. But the expert, his name is Gonzalez. No, it's got to be a Jewish doctor. I had a guy who was kicked out of 4 medical schools, graduated from online university in southern Brazil. No.
No, they're down on the Virgin Islands.
Yeah, no, I know we had some of those. So the obvious question is, it doesn't make any sense. Because the guy's a priest, you tell him the Kohen has to declare it, right? It doesn't make any sense, right? Should I get political, right? Who declares war? The president or the Kohen? Okay. Go to 3a. So let's go back to the beginning when we said that the Kohen declares him impure, and what happens? The guy is kicked out of civilization. He has to leave the city. Why? Because we're saying the guy has a rotten character. So you need somebody who knows how to judge character. Now the Kohen's job, always, traditionally, going back from when they started from the tribe of Levi, was to be the teachers of and the mentors of the Jewish people. So you see in text 3a, the Sforno says that they were experienced. Here we go. There we go. Here we go. They were experienced in dealing with people. So a guy comes, and remember, the tzaras on the skin is a symptom of the core problem. Right? It's not the problem. Tzaras on the skin is not the problem, it's what's going on inside that's the problem. But in order to know that the guy had a rotten character and the guy needed to improve, comes to the Kohen, and the Kohen says, and who better than somebody who deals with people. So you see, the Das says it a little more clear. He says that the Kohen would recognize, because he deals with people and he deals with motivating people. Because think about it this way: when a person came to you ever think about it? What was the idea of coming to the Beis Hamikdash? Came to the temple with a sacrifice. You think you just came there, you threw you gave the animal over to the Kohen, you slaughtered, put it on the altar, and that's it. What was the point of coming? Just so you can throw an animal on the altar and you can have a barbecue later? And you're like, oh, what's so bad about that? What was the point?
That was a way of either asking forgiveness.
But not all sacrifices ask for forgiveness.
No, that's one of the forgiveness or the fact.
But why?
Thanking Hashem.
Yeah, but
forgiving
what was the point of coming to the
prosperity.
temple? What was the point? What was the point of that experience? So the rabbis explain. First of all, he came to this beautiful, gorgeous building, right? And you met a bunch of other Jews. But the job of the Kohen wasn't just to take your animal and that's it. The job of the Kohen was to motivate you, to inspire you. It was a whole religious experience. You came to Yerushalayim, right? The holiest place, and all the Jews are milling about, and you come to the Beis Hamikdash, the greatest shul in the world, and you have all these Jews, plugged in, having a uplifting experience, and the Kohen is talking to you and motivating you, and then you go back home, you're totally a different person. You're supercharged, to serve Hashem. So you see, the Kohen, you see in text 3b, the Kohen's job, he would be good if a person is in a bad place because he's done he's done different things. Then where did I read it? Those six. Here it is. It says here, Shiva Devarim Lashon Hara, gossip, murder, oath in vain, immorality, arrogance, stealing, and stinginess. Okay, I missed. Yeah, there were 7. Huh?
Being cheap.
Being cheap. One of the worst character traits. It says the Jewish people, by nature, are modest, we're compassionate, and we're giving. We're merciful and giving.
I'm the most humble person you'll ever meet.
Modest. It's not. That's not. It doesn't mean. It means by shonim. By shonim doesn't mean. By shonim means it means embarrassed. It means we don't call attention to ourselves. That's the way. We're modest. It's not arrogance. Look what I can do. Anyway, so that's now why. Why the Kohen? Now why can it be a Kohen? But let's say, but it doesn't answer the question. Let's say you have a rabbi, who he's not a Kohen, but people come to him for advice, and he spends his whole day giving advice to people. Take the Rebbe, for example. What did the Rebbe do? The Rebbe locked himself up in the room to learn Torah. And the other times, people are bothering him day and night, letters, calling. You remember that story I told you that this someone out of New York. It was, I think, in overseas. I think it was before Yom Tov or something. Friday morning, something. The woman was cooking a pot, and the water spilled on the girl, and the doctor says, it's bad. They wanted to operate. They called 770. It was the middle of the night in 770, and I don't know what else picked up. He said, we need a bracha from the Rebbe, we don't know what to do. So he said, sorry, the Rebbe went home. So he said, you got to call the Rebbe. So, no, the rule was, once the Rebbe went home, his private time, the Rebbe had a few hours of private time. We don't call him. So he says, the life and death. They called back a few times. Finally, the secretary didn't know what to do. So he calls the Rebbe's house. Who picks up? The Rebbe. And he starts apologizing, saying, I'm sorry, it's a life and death situation. Do you want the Rebbe's bracha? The Rebbe says, what are you apologizing for? This is why we're here, to help people. You don't have to apologize. I mean, the Rebbe's not a kohen. He can't help somebody with us. But no, the answer is no. Right? There's actually a story talking about love. There was a guy, a French guy. Well, he was actually from Algeria. He bumped into some Chabad young boys, asked them, are you Jewish? He said, yeah. He wasn't religious at all. You Jewish? Yeah. You want to put on tefillin? They don't know what tefillin are? Yeah. Then he had no idea what being Jewish meant, so he went to the library. This was in France. Went to the library. He learned about Jewish, and then he was in Brunois. Brunois is a suburb of Paris. There's a big Chabad yeshiva there. It was established by the previous Rebbe after World War II. And he went to learn more. And when you speak to Chabad guy, this is in the early 70s. When you speak to a Chabad guy, what do they always bring up? The Rebbe, especially in the 70s, right? So he hears about the Rebbe, he hears about the Rebbe, he hears about the Rebbe, all these things. So he decides he wants to meet the Rebbe. So he books an appointment, comes to New York. And in the conversation, he tells the Rebbe, I don't know, the people, they love you too much. It's over-exaggerated. So he says, the Rebbe said, maybe it's because I love them too much, right? So, but the question is, we understand that the kohen might be a guy that usually deals and counsels people, but why does he have to be the only one to declare a person impure? Let's get into it. Text number 4. Text number 4. We read it last week. I hope everybody did. Ethics of Our Fathers. Now, on the Shabbosim, on the Saturdays between Pesach and Shavuos, according to everybody. Chabad and other communities do it from Pesach all the way to Rosh Hashanah, a chapter a week, a Shabbos afternoon. So in chapter 1, it says, be a student of Aaron. Love peace, pursue peace, love everybody, and bring them to Torah. So, Aaron was known. Oh, here we go. More alcohol. Here we go. By the way, we're gonna have a good time tonight. Yeah, all 3 bottles have to go tonight. No one leaves before the bottles are empty. Either the bottles are knocked down on the floor, or we are. What's gonna?
Probably we will.
All right.
If that's the case.
So Lashon Hara, Lashon Hara gossip was the most famous reason that the Saras came. Split up the community and created discord and fighting. Aaron was known as a lover of peace. So because you see in text number 5, he says, "Open it, don't. What do you think it's here for?" Right. So you see in text number 5. So the Kleyakar says, So the Kleyakar says that why does he have to come to the Kohen? Because this guy, what was his problem? He caused fighting in the community. So you got to come to somebody who's known as a lover and brings peace to the community. It says when Aaron died, everyone cried. When Moshe died, the men cried. Why? What's the difference? It says because Moshe, what was Moshe's job? Moshe was to teach Torah. So the men appreciated it more, right? The women were busy at home. When Aaron died, even the ladies cried. Why? Because Aaron was known to love everybody. Everyone loved Aaron. Aaron was known if there was a fight between friends or between spouses, he would go, I just spoke to Leah. She was angry. She said something where she really loves you and she wants to, go out on a date. Then she would go to Leah. He said, I spoke to Ruvain. No, Ruvain is so sorry for what he said. Really, he's a little bashful to come together. And Aaron, there's a number in the Gemara of the babies that were born because of Aaron. It's a crazy number. Because he made shalom between husband and wife. I forgot what the number is. The Gemara attributes a crazy number to Aaron. Because everyone loved Aaron. So when So now we understand. Here's a guy who made fighting in the community, so you want to come to a lover. But so it says why, and here we're going to get into it, because a guy, right, has done something really bad, murder, or it's something immoral, or he's stealing, or he's gossip. I mean, this guy is really, or it's interesting, but being cheap is in that list. Isn't that interesting? Huh?
I didn't hear what you said.
It's interesting that being cheap is in that list.
Oh.
And he comes to the kohen, or let's say he would come to a rabbi, right? Some other rabbi. And the rabbi sits here in this big comfortable chair. He says, "You know what you are? You're a bad guy. You're a really bad guy. You need to repent, sinner, or you're going to burn in hell." Right?
I thought that concept was not Jewish.
Oh, sorry, wrong religion. Meaning, it's very easy when we come across somebody who's in a bad way for his character, to go and tell them and say, you're a bad person and you need to improve. Like you sit there on your pedestal, right? You look down at the person and say, it's very easy. But what's the point over here? That you should feel good about yourself? At least I'm not that guy, right? That guy's doing all these terrible things. What's the point here? The point is that we want the guy to improve. So a guy comes to the rabbi and says, "Listen, I have these problems." One of my favorite stories. I actually haven't told it in a long time, but it's one of my favorite stories. A guy did something really bad, and finally he felt some regret. So he decided to come to the Rebbe Rashab, the fifth Chabad Rebbe Shalom Dave Ber, and to ask him. It's called a tikkun. Tikkun means a fix for how to improve. But he was so ashamed of what he did, he came up with this brilliant idea. He came into the Rebbe and he said, "My friend did something really bad, and he was so ashamed to come tell you that he sent me." The Rebbe Rashab looked at him, and if you look at the picture of the Rebbe Rashab, that's right. The Rebbe Rashab had eyes that can cut through a mountain. The Rebbe Rashab looked at him, says, "It's interesting how you're saying that, but why did your friend have to send you to say he did it? Maybe, why didn't your friend come here and say you did it? Maybe you did it and you're saying your friend did it." So the guy said, "Rebbe, I did it." So the Rebbe said, "All right, now we could work on a fix." So Chassidim analyzed the story and saying, the Rebbe knew the whole time he was playing games. Why did the Rebbe have to sort of catch him trap him in the corner? Because until the guy admits that he has a problem, right, he's not going to want to improve. Right? Jerry Seinfeld has that joke about a nose job is called a rhinoplasty. Right? Says the guy's obviously aware he has the problem. We have to compare him to a rhinoceros. Rhinoplasty, right? Right? The guy comes to the kohen and he says, "Look, I have a problem." Right? He's coming to the kohen and he says, "I have this issue." So obviously the guy's coming to the rabbi and he's saying that I have this character flaw. I want to work on myself. So what does the rabbi do? Yeah, you're right. You're a bad guy. You need to improve. In fact, out of all the bad guys, you're one of the worst. You're so bad, get out of my office. Not only get out of my office, get out of my town. I sound like a sheriff from the Western, right? Right? I don't want to see you anywhere around. Get out. And if I see you in any other shul, I'll excommunicate you. The rabbi's thinking, look at me. I'm a power. I'm a hot guy. I'm a big macher, right?
That's worse than whatever the guy did.
Right? But that's obviously wrong. So that's why you got to come to Aaron, because the guy wants to improve. And if a guy, let's say you had a kid, not that you, God forbid. Let's say a person has a kid, and the kid is struggling with drugs, alcohol, gambling, some character flaw. You go to the kid and say, "Listen, I had plans for you. I want you to become a doctor, or at least a lawyer. If you're half normal, an accountant, but you're an abject,
Desperate.
what?
If you're desperate, a dentist.
Right, but you're an abject failure. You're a disappointment, and you're embarrassing the family. So I want you to leave my house, never come back, change your name, and I don't know you. Now, that's not a normal parent. A normal parent is you love the kid. Doesn't mean you support their habit. You love the kid and you try to get them to improve. And sometimes it means you got to talk tough to your kid. But you're doing it in a way that the kid knows you love them no matter what. And you want them to improve, to stop doing the self-destructive behavior. Right? Love doesn't mean you don't rebuke them. Actually, it says in the Gemara, it says a loving parent rebukes their child. Some people translate it as hits their child or spanks their child. We're not going to get that. I'm not going to get into that. Right? It doesn't mean you don't rebuke the child. If you have a friend that has a problem, maybe you have an issue. If you're a friend, you go to them. Actually, there's a mitzvah. The Rambam says, if someone did something wrong to you, you're not supposed to hold it inside. You're supposed to go to them and say, you did something wrong to me, made me feel very bad. The person should know. You're not allowed to hold a grudge, right? You go to the person and you say, what you did was, what you're doing is wrong, and you're better than that. So how do you know it's effective or not? How do you know if you hit the spot? No?
I guess it's wait and see if he improves.
So if it came from a place of love, so it says you can, outside, you could be an actor. We all act. There's a comedian I once saw, I don't know who it was. So when you go out on the first date, that's not you. It's like your first job interview. That's a representative of you. They don't get to know the real you until you're married and everything else. We all lie, right? We all act. Right? He has a whole bit about that. It's very good. Some of us are better or worse. Some get paid millions of dollars about putting out an act. But I can see if the words you're saying are coming from a place of love, that we're both sitting and equal and you're trying to help me, or you're just saying things to whatever it is because some cliche in the book. The heart doesn't lie. The words of King Solomon are, the heart is a mirror. If you're showing me love, I'll reciprocate. If you're showing me, if I feel that you're being condescending and your whole reproach is because whatever it is, you just want to feel good about yourself, then I'm not going to listen. Right? Let's look at what how the Rebbe says it. One second, let's see, 6. Yeah, let's look at 6b. Jump to 6b on page 10. Rebbe says, it's not that the Kohen doesn't follow the law. If the Kohen sees something is impure, the guy's doing something wrong, you don't say, oh, it's okay. No, you're wrong. But he says, because it's coming from a place of love, they see it in the only, however, the actual sentence, the middle of the second paragraph, says, however, the actual sentence must be issued by the priest, a person of kindness. Only the priest feels the full weight of issuing such a severe sentence against a fellow Jew. He will therefore spare no effort to thoroughly examine the expert on nuances of the law, remind the expert of the court's equal obligations to convict and to exonerate. There's an interesting law that when it comes to capital punishment or something as serious, but very serious, if it's a case that has to be adjudicated by the Supreme Court, if the entire court says guilty, he's free to go. You heard what I said? If all 71 judges say he's guilty, he's free to go. Doesn't make sense, yeah?
No.
Could you think why?
He wasn't represented properly.
That's an American answer.
Hashem will have the final say over him.
But the reason is, it's because not one person could find something good to say about the guy. Then you guys are not.
It's not possible.
It's not possible. It means you guys are not judging properly. You guys are slanted.
What you're saying.
I mean, there has to be some good. There has to be some good, some way of looking at it, where some circumstance where you can excuse away. With your kid, you go to Barbara, you're a teacher. You'll remind you. You go. The parents come for parent-teacher conference, and you tell the parents, your kid did this, your kid did that.
Not my child.
Yeah, and you're not talking about the stratosphere, up in there, Artemis, what they saw, what they didn't see. The kid was in my class. I wish I had it on video. No, it can't be. What can be? And if you tell them there was another kid that did it, really, that kid's terrible. By the way, in the beginning of chapter 3 of Pirkei Avos, the Baal Shem Tov has a very famous idea. It says we have to remember who we're giving judgment and account to at the end of 120 years. So I forgot who it is. I think the Baal Shem Tov asked this question: shouldn't it be account and then judgment? Why judgment and then account? Because it says, interesting, after 120 years, soul comes up and they ask the soul, let me ask you a question. Judge this case for me. There's a guy over there. They did A, B, and C. What do you think? So if we judge the other person favorably, good for us. And if they do not, they turn to us and say, oh, ain't that interesting? Because back on April 16th, 2026, played a videotape, look what you did, right? So we pass judgment on everyone else, but we're really passing judgment on ourselves, right? But on ourselves, we don't pass judgment. Like the famous line from King Solomon, self-love covers up everything, right? So just like you love yourself, and yeah, I did it, but there's a reason. My teacher, my parent, the rabbi, whatever it is, you know what I'm saying? You always find an excuse, right?
The dog did it.
The dog ate the homework, exactly, right? I don't own a dog. I still believe it in the dog.
The homework ate my dog.
Yeah. So this, the Rebbe says, this is why the kohen has to be the one to be present, because here's the rabbi is going to come and say, there's certain times, by the way, the rabbi has to be married, or the rabbi has to have children. Yeah.
You mean there are no single rabbis without children?
There were. There was a Rabbi Ben Azai, who either never got married, or got married, got divorced. He said, I can't deal with this, with the daily life. And he told him about this mitzvah to have kids. That's someone else's mitzvah. No, but for example, the chazan on Yom Kippur is supposed to be a person with kids. Because here we're asking God to have mercy upon us, like a father has mercy on his children. A person who never had kids or never got married doesn't know what it means to have compassion, and doesn't means to compromise.
I have a cousin.
Yeah.
Well, actually, one of her children, who was a cousin.
Yeah.
A cousin, who did a beautiful job before he was married, before he was even, I think he was about 16 or 17, when he took the first assignment to daven on Yom Kippur.
Right.
Was that kosher?
No, it doesn't mean it's not kosher. It's preferable. It's preferable because the person singing the words, well, it will have more impact. A parent's compassion for the children is, I love my kids no matter what. That's we're asking Hashem Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. We're not coming to them and say we're perfect. We're saying love us no matter what, because we're your kids. That's the idea. So a kohen represents the love of a yid, no matter what. And this is what love means. Loving a yid. Loving a yid doesn't mean that you don't see. The Rebbe didn't tell somebody, it's okay, you don't have to put on tefillin. It's okay, you don't have to keep Shabbos. It's okay, you don't have to keep kosher, because he loved every yid. No, he tried to push them and guide them toward, if a person is 350 pounds, right, on diabetes and everything else, walks around with the oxygen tank and says, I'm healthy, I'm the epitome of health. And he said, self-love covers up all flaws. That's not self-love. That's disillusion. He's not.
It's self-destruction.
Exactly, right? He's having. I heard of it. I never had it, but I heard of something called fried ice cream. How many calories? Many calories do you need, right? I don't know if I told you. My daughter showed me a channel or a clip of these people. This lady is a barista, I guess Starbucks, I don't know. these drinks that people make, you know, the cream and this and that's like 900 calories per drink, right? Anyway, self-love doesn't mean you don't think you have, like you see in text 7c, the Tzemach Tzedek says, self-love doesn't mean that you don't think you have any defaults. Yeah, I know I have defaults, but you explain it away because whatever it is, right? I mean, you attribute it to something else. Like let's say a person is driving, and it's early in the morning, the sun's in his eyes, right? And he doesn't see the red light, so he made a mistake. And he drives through the red light, he gets a ticket, or God forbid, he gets into a crash. What is he going to say? No, I didn't drive through the red light. Yes, he did. But you go to the judge and say, oh, I did, but I couldn't see, the sun was in my eyes, right? Self-love means you realize you have a problem, rhinoplasty, right? And you, you make the appointment, right? But the person is not pushed to improve. Why? Because he attributes it to something else. And here comes the drive point. So when you look at another person, and the first thing we see at the other person is their faults. Going back to Jerry Seinfeld, I think it's him. He says he's sitting in the doctor's waiting room, and what do? I wonder why they're here. That person's a goner, right? You know, you diagnose just from sitting there, right? The first thing you do, you look at another person. I remember when one of the things we had to go in front of the city for approval for the show, and so, some people came, you know, from my brother's community, from my family. So after it was approved, someone came over to me and says, you know, I was surprised the mayor, the old mayor, Orders, approved it. I said, why? Oh, you look like a mean guy. No. I don't know, the way he had a scowl on his face. I said, no, I don't know, right? It's very, very easy to judge somebody. The question is, when you look at a person and you notice their fault, and the fault is there, right? What reaction does it happen inside of you? Is the reaction, that guy's a schmo, that guy's a bad guy? Or is it, you know, I want to try to help this guy? Let's look at a great grandson of the Baal Shem Tov. It says Menachem of you ever heard of Twersky? Abraham Twersky?
Yeah.
Right. So he was a great grandson of the famous Chernobyl Chassidim, Rebbeim. In Chernobyl, before it was famous for the nuclear meltdown, in Hasidic circles, it was famous for the Twersky family. And he says, text 8, the Baal Shem Tov taught that truly righteous people with no faults, whatsoever, see no faults in others, because they're perfect. So they see another person as perfect. Looking at others is like looking in a mirror. If our face is dirty, then we see ugly faces in the mirror. If our face is clean, we see a pristine image, like the famous joke. It's not so much of a joke. A Gentile comes over to a Jew. He said, why are you guys so smart? He says, because we learn Gemara. But remember this one? So he says, Gemara? So I want to learn Gemara. He says, I don't think you can learn Gemara. So why? I'll ask you a question. Two guys come down the chimney. Remember this one? Mm-mm. Two guys come down the chimney. Who washes their face? So one clean. Sorry, two guys come down the chimney. One cleans, one's dirty. Who washes their face? So the guy says, the dirty guy. He said, no. Says the clean one. So why would the clean one wash his face? Because he looked at the dirty guy, he saw his face. His face is dirty. So he thinks his face is dirty also. He goes, okay, ask me another one. Two guys come down the chimney. Says one clean, one dirty. Who washes his face? You just told me the clean. He says no. So he says the dirty guy looks at the clean guy and thinks he's dirty. He thinks he's clean. So he doesn't wash his face. So it says the other guy thinks, hey, he's not washing his face. I also want to wash my face. Okay, ask me another one. So he says, two guys come down the chimney. One's clean, one's dirty. Who washes their face? It's none of them. No, both of them. So what do you mean? Clean guy sees the dirty guy washing his face, so he washes his face. The dirty guy sees the clean guy washing his face, so he also washes his face. Okay, give me one more chance. She says, two guys come down the chimney. One cleans, one's dirty. He says, So who washes their face? So he says, both of them, all of them. So I understand. The whole question is a stupid question. How can two guys come down the chimney? One be clean, one be dirty. You can't learn Gemara, right? Right? So you look at the other person and you see schmutz. That's because you have schmutz yourself. It's a famous line in the Baal Shem Tov is, when we point at somebody, there's one finger pointing to them, and there's three fingers pointing to us. And one of the biggest problems is there was a famous story that one time the second Chabad Rebbe, the Middle Rebbe, shut down meetings, private meetings, for like 3 weeks, and everybody was very nervous. How come he wasn't meeting with people? So finally, he told somebody. He says a guy came. I know what the sin is, but I'm not going to say it because it's on recording. I mean, the sin is bad. I mean, when I say vile, disgusting, I mean, nasty. And he came to the Middle Rebbe, and he asked him for a fix. And the Middle Rebbe said, when a person comes to me and asks me for a fix, I have to find that flaw inside me. Otherwise, how can I help someone else if I don't have? But this was such a disgusting act. I couldn't find it inside myself, so I had to close up shop, so to speak, and look inward. So he says, let's look what the Rebbe says. Text number 9 says that when we hear that a Jew did something inappropriate, she jumps ahead. We hear a Jew did something inappropriate, God forbid. We must think.
He was talking about it. So
Yeah. You must think that our job is to help them. When you see someone doing something wrong, your reaction has to be, how do I get them to improve? If we hear something not good about another, instead of thinking about how we can help them, we think about how bad they are, or how better we are. Right? At least I'm not that guy. Right? It's ironclad proof that our face has schmutz. That's when you love another person, you want to help them. You're not thinking about how stupid they are and how could they be so bad. So now we can understand the question at the beginning of the class was, how do we know how to communicate rebuke, how to get someone to improve without alienating them? Is you have to try to help them. And the person will sense that. If they sense for a second that your words are coming from a place of you're standing on your soapbox, and you want to be, Jerry Seinfeld talking about, I don't know why he's on my mind today. I haven't listened to him in years. I don't know why. Jerry Seinfeld has a joke about the pharmacist. So why is this guy on a platform? Who is this guy? What is he doing? Like, back all people are putting pills from a big bottle into a little bottle, right? So, if people think for a moment that you are talking down to them,
yeah,
you could be 100% right.
you're not going to listen.
No, right? I remember my teacher once told me there's the message and the messenger. The message could be 100% right, but if the messenger is,
That's how you deliver it.
yeah, right? He says, does this dress make me look fat? Yes, right? It's all about how you say it. So it says, we're finishing off in text number 10. When a Jew is afflicted with tzaras, they bring to a kohen. What does that mean? When a Jew stumbles, God forbid, the tzaddik senses the blemish that was created, just as a person feels pain if one of his limbs is injured, so too, this is how a person, a tzaddik helps a person. They didn't do it. The kohen didn't do it. This guy did it. But when you feel that all Jews are part of one body, so it bothers you that the guy did something wrong. It bothers you that the guy is not doing the mitzvah, and this is the same is true in genuine friendship. Oh, here we go. Real love means that we feel each other's struggles, and that our awareness moves us to help one another correct and heal. And there was a rabbi in Israel. He came with his wife to the doctor. His wife had a problem with her leg. The doctor says, "What's the problem?" He tells the doctor, "Our leg hurts." The doctor says, "Huh?" So our leg hurts. So whose leg? So, well, it's her leg, but it's our leg. Meaning it's her problem. It's our problem. Right? So when you really love another Jew, it says then when you love your kid, same thing. I mean, you see text number 11, at page 17. When you love your kid, it means that you try to you try to uplift them. There's a story of a rabbi. The kid went to watch a movie on Shabbos. The rabbi found out about it. He walks into the movie theater. Right? He sits down next to this kid. He tells the kid, enjoy the movie. Just, I don't think you should eat the popcorn. It's not kosher. And he got up and walked out. Not even a minute later, that kid was walking with him back to yeshiva. And the kid never did that again. That's how you rebuke somebody, right? You don't imagine you tell them you're a bad guy, you broke Shabbos, you went to a movie, right? So and there's so many stories like that. There's a story of Beryl Wine. The story tells a story. He grew up in Chicago when the Cubs made it to the series in 47 or 40. Yeah, I think it was 46 or 47. It was a big deal. The Cubs hadn't been to the series, I think, since '09. So some yeshiva kids slept on the sidewalk, got tickets, and what do? You turn around and try to scalp the tickets. This is before StubHub and Ticketmaster. Did you see there's a big lawsuit?
They got fined.
Yeah.
They're gonna get fined.
Yeah, so they're raising the price, but scalping tickets was illegal. Maybe it still is. I don't know. Haven't been
Caught outside of a stadium scalping tickets.
Yeah, 10 years or 20 years ago, you could get away with it. Now, that's...
I don't know.
Now,
Anyway,
Now they do it online.
yeah. Anyway, so these yeshiva boys were busted scalping tickets, and it was a big deal. You have these religious kids, Jewish religious kids, scalping tickets. They printed it up in the paper. They went over to the rabbi who worked in the school. His job was law and order. Says we have to kick them out of yeshiva. They made an absolute mockery of Judaism, of Torah, of the yeshiva. I forgot who the rabbi was. He says, where does it say in the Torah if your kids sell tickets illegally, you kick them out of school? I mean, you got to punish, but kick them out of school. You're right.
Big deal.
You're right. You're writing that. Back then it was a big deal. I mean, you're writing them off. So that's what you want to do. You just want to kick them out of Judaism. He says, yeah. And these guys, he says his story. These days, the guys have nice Jewish, nice, proper, observant families. They made a mistake. Okay, so you helped them improve. But it has to come from a place of love. It's coming from a place of ego. It's not going to work. Everyone, have a good week. Does anything want to add to all? I promised you that we're going to go off the subject again. Before I end the recording, anything you want to add?
No, he's finished.
Oh, he's
We're good.
Okay.
We're good.